Hi, I'm Arthur, and this is my boyfriend, Harry.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Harry, Arthur's boyfriend.
So, I asked you guys for some questions, and then we selected a bunch of them, and hopefully this video will not last an hour, but we'll see. We're both very talkative people, which is great for dating and questionable for video making.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Okay, so I'll launch right into this with the first question, which is, how did you end up getting together, and did it take time after meeting each other? It's you.
I thought...
You want me to start?
Okay, technically, we met a little over a year ago at our mutual friend's half-birthday party that was in my backyard, but I was not hosting. And that was it. I met a lot of random people that night who I didn't know and were friends with our friend, and Arthur was just one of them.
But it was love at first sight, really.
And that, to me, is love at first sight.
So then this sort of hodgepodge group of friends started watching Dragula and then RuPaul's Drag Race together. It was when we were watching Drag Race last January that Harry and I...
Season 14, if anyone's keeping up.
Yes. That Harry and I got together for the first time. So this group, we would watch the episode, drink some, eat some random snacks, and then hang out and chat for a while afterwards. So Harry and I were talking in the kitchen, and I was telling him about how I was in an open relationship and wanted to be hooking up with more people. And Harry was like, well, why aren't you on Grindr? And then I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to say the thing I need to say. And so I was like, oh, because I'm transgender. And then Harry was like, well, there are trans people on Grindr. And I was like, whatever, I got my fact out of the way. We were having a very sweet conversation about what I was looking for in hookups in the context of my open relationship.
Yeah, very sweet.
No, it was very thoughtful. You were like, what are your goals? I thought it was lovely of you.
Thank you. And I probably meant it that way also. And it was also very obviously leading somewhere, I think, at that point.
And then Harry was like, do you have your eye on anyone in particular? And
if it wasn't clear
yes.
before.
At this point in the conversation, I had not been like actively pursuing Harry, though I had always thought you were cute and
likewise
and loud, which I liked. It's my top attractive quality in people is loud.
Loud and annoying.
Yes, exactly. And so I said, no, but I would hook up with you. And so that was our amazing origin story. But I don't know, I think I was very proud of myself for being that bold, because I normally don't pursue people. That's not true. At that point in my life, I didn't. It was a year ago, and I was a shy, baby trans gay man.
I think, well, yeah, that was very nice and fun, but I knew he was in a relationship, and so I didn't read too much into it, other than a couple of thoughts of he's pretty cool, and I like him. And wouldn't it be nice, you know? And then I went away for 3 weeks, and when I came back, we hung out a few more times. Each time it felt like a little bit more intimate and romantic, and but again, because he was in a relationship, and that I just assumed that isn't what was happening. And so I was like, maybe this is how he treats all of his hookups. And he's just a sweet, affectionate person. And turns out he's not at all. And he's only that way when he has a crush.
Yeah, so we basically had to, I guess, speed run the whole start there, because from the time when Harry returned from his trip, we started hanging out again, and I was telling my ex, everything. We would call every time we hooked up with anyone else. Everything was really, above board, but I started to realize, I actually didn't want to be dating that person, and I wanted to be dating Harry, but I had to make all those choices, sort of simultaneously. And so it went from, 0 to 100 in, 9 days, and it was so quick that... some of my friends were asking about my ex when I was already into dating Harry. And I was like, oh, I broke up with him, there's a new person, you have to catch up. It definitely felt like a leap, but it was pretty clear to me that I was super excited about it, and it was the right leap to take. And I think, all things considered, what could have been an extremely messy situation was only slightly messy. And
it wasn't messy at all for me.
It wasn't messy at all for Harry. I had a lot of people to manage and deal with. Yeah. So then there's a question that says, what was your first date like?
Right. It depends on what you consider our first date, and what we consider our first date, the context for it was that in that whole, like, internal turmoil that Arthur had to deal with, we finally, like, admitted to each other that we had feelings, like, while I was away on a different trip. The day that I came back, we made dinner together and had a nice romantic evening, and it was just, like, lentils or something, but it felt very special because it was, like, the first time we were actually hanging out, like, knowing how the other felt about each other. That was our first date.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, was it hard to tell Harry that you were trans, or did he already know? And so I already described how I told Harry I was trans, and that was hard. And also, he already knew. So the answer is yes and yes. At this time in my life, yeah, I was, as Harry said, I was working really hard to try to be more open about the fact I was trans. I actually filmed a video about this a year ago. And this friend group was one of the people, like, the groups of people I had in mind where I was like, it's just so stupid I'm not out about the fact I'm trans. Because, one, in this group, almost everyone is LGBT, a good chunk of people are trans or genderqueer. It absolutely, like, no one would be weird about it. It's a group where a lot of people would be super cool. And so, if anything, I was sort of impeding the level of connection I could have with people. But also, it was just so contextually obvious that I was trans, because I got, like, invited in to start hanging out with these people through my friend who was a trans guy, and I would roll up with 2 other trans-masculine, non-binary people, so it's a group of 4 trans-masculine people, and it's just, like, pretty obvious, I think. Like, if you're someone that's seen a trans guy before, like, I don't know, like, what am I, some, like, random cis gay man they found off the street? I think, like, people could put 2 and 2 together. So I think you just sort of always, like, knew that I was. But not everyone knew. I mean, your housemate was, like, surprised.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was so obvious to me that I thought you had said it before.
Yes. We actually had a whole disagreement about this, because I was like, it was very momentous for me, because when I told Harry that I was trans, in the context of wanting to hook up with him, it was actually the first time I had told someone new that I was trans in, like, months. Like, it was a huge deal for me. I was, like, leading up to that night, like, knowing I was going to practice trying to say it with someone. And so I, like, really was like, wow, like, I landed that, like, he was cool about it, it was totally great, like, very important to me. And then Harry was like, oh, what, you didn't come out, like... And I was like, no.
That's not how I sound.
That's how you sound. So Harry was always sort of implicitly aware and always was chill with it, but it was still scary for me to say it out loud.
Which is fair.
Yes. So then, a related question for Harry is, were you open to a relationship with a trans man before meeting Arthur?
Yeah. Arthur is the first trans man I've dated or slept with.
Yeah.
But I had previously been attracted to or had interest in, whether sexually, romantically, like as a crush, to other trans men, trans-masc, non-binary people. I was open to it in my mind. It was definitely something I thought about, but I was never actually that close to it in reality, so I hadn't put a ton of thought into it.
Okay, this question I think is very funny. So this is also for Harry. It says, did you tell your family and friends you were dating a trans guy? Was it hard? How did they react? Do you know why I find it funny?
Well, because
yes.
I did a little bit, and then you told me to stop. Yes, I did tell some people. Well, for me, right, like, it was novel. Like, a novel experience for me that mattered. And so, sometimes, especially at the beginning, it was one of the things that the factoids that I would include in describing who Arthur is. I don't as much anymore because I realized that it's unnecessary detail. Not because we have any reason to hide it or that Arthur wants it hidden, but that it's not a prominent part of who Arthur is.
Yes, I thought it was very cute. I just think also because Harry hadn't been in a relationship for a while, and so I think he was.
Yeah, I hadn't actually been in a relationship in like 4 years at that point. So,
yeah. And so I kind of had the energy where you're like, and he's so great. He's a trans man, and he's an economist, and his name is Arthur. And it was very cute, but I was like, that fact is like, you know, it was just, I think in part, like, I had deliberately tried to be, like, very cavalier about it, and so I think you didn't, or meaning, like, when I was telling you, I was trying to, like, practice being casual, so you didn't even realize that was, like, a secret special thing I told you, and then I think you assumed I was a lot more out than I was, and so it all came from, like, a place of, like, you being like, oh, like, it's just a fun fact about Arthur.
Yeah.
Which is very cute. And I think, again, better than the alternative where you're, like, ashamed about it. Like, certainly I prefer this. And then when I told you, you were, like, immediately like, oh, of course, and so...
So I don't go around telling people that is, like, the first thing they know about Arthur. And there are definitely, people in my life who have even met Arthur, but still don't know that. But the people I did tell were very open and supportive. I mean, a lot of them are trans men or trans masc people themselves, so it was, like, relevant to tell them.
And also, I think, probably particularly fun, right? Where you were, like, to tell your friends that are... you're like, I'm dating one.
I mean, I didn't quite do it like that.
I know.
So, yeah, like, a lot of the friends that I told... They might have been trans men or trans masc themselves, or, like, also knew a lot of... Like, I have a few... Oh, that sounds weird to be like, I have a lot of trans friends.
You do. You can own that. And we're proud of you for that.
It's what makes me a great ally. So I have a lot of trans friends.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, so a lot of my friends, I would say, like, it wasn't a surprising thing that I would know or be dating a trans man. All my friends are either trans or supportive of trans people. My parents, I also didn't, like, just outright say it, but but I did intentionally work it in where I told them that I was dating someone named Arthur, and they were like, Arthur, that's such an unusual name. Why, for your generation? Why is he named Arthur? And I was like, wow, if you must know, he chose that name because he's trans. And, well, one of the things that I find cute about Arthur is that he intentionally, I don't know if you told your subscribers this, but when he was thinking about a name to choose, he was intentionally looking for names that were uncommon and nobody else would have.
Oh, yes, I did tell them this. So I ended up with, like, the average Arthur, I think, in the US is, like, 78 or something.
Yes, and they're also not even that common.
Yeah. People actually all the time in coffee shops will... I say that as if I get coffee often. But anyways, whenever I do get chai tea because someone asked me to go for a coffee, people will read my name, or hear my name as author. Like, the author of a novel. And so I'll get it back and it just says author. And I'm like, wow, Arthur is apparently a really strange name. Who knew?
Yeah, less strange than author.
Yeah, exactly.
As a name, apparently.
So the next question is, are your family supportive of your relationship? So, the short answer is yes. And the long answer is a silly anecdote. Which is that Harry is here with me at my parents' house for his first ever Christmas, because he's Jewish. And we were going around to this, like, random local store that you can think of, like TJ Maxx, where it just has a bunch of strange items. And Harry does drag sometimes.
Sometimes.
Harry is a famous drag queen. Do you not recognize him? And also sometimes likes wearing femme clothing, etc. And conveniently for Harry, this place had sort of all this random overstock stuff, which included weirdly sized women's shoes. And so we stumbled upon 2 pairs of shoes, and Harry was, like, deciding between the 2 of them. We put them back, we went back, they were gone. And so my parents secretively bought Harry these shoes for Christmas. So not only do they accept our gay relationship, but they support Harry's drag. I think it's remarkable. And then, meanwhile, I received, for Hanukkah, which, for my viewers, it's the most important Jewish holiday, actually.
It's not true. Oh my god. It's actually one of the least important Jewish holidays. It's just been commercialized to compete with Christmas, and so that so that kids don't feel bad.
It's actually, it's 8 Christmases stacked.
Yeah, stack. Don't believe a word Arthur says.
I've been learning a lot because we're in an interfaith relationship. Anyways, and Harry's parents got me these socks, and then also, how would you describe the headband?
They were headbands.
No, but it was a headband.
But they had, like, little dreidels and menorahs sticking out of them on little springs. When you shake your head, they, like,
yeah, so
bobble side to side. Yes, sure.
Anyways, so the answer is yes, supportive. It says, for Harry, when did you first realize you were gay?
That's a good question. Well, I realized I was queer in high school. I used the word queer mostly anyway.
But you identify as bi in high school, I guess.
In high school, I initially came out to people as bi. Yeah, I predominantly am attracted to men, but still use the word queer because it's more fluid and feels more open to other possibilities, which is also often true for me. But yeah, at the time I came out as bi, I always really like have like my own internal timeline confused in my head but of like when I realized it myself, but it was definitely somewhere between like 8th and 10th grade, which is like kind of a few years possibility. But I mean, I did have a girlfriend in 8th grade. Girlfriend in 8th grade, which is we were friends and we thought we wanted to be more than friends, and then realized we didn't. I guess maybe like part of that, like that was part of maybe realizing that I was queer, but I don't know. But one thing that was really cute about like me realizing and coming out was the first person I ever told was my best friend at the time. I came to school one day and was like, I have something to tell you at lunch. And they were like, me too. And it turns out we were both coming out to each other, and they were identifying as lesbian at the time. And we were each the first person that the other told. And it was really, really sweet to be able to like go through that with my best friend.
That's very sweet. The next question is, what's your favorite thing to do together? Do I have to start?
You can start this time, because
Okay.
I answered the last
It's
question.
true. I think our favorite thing to do together is hang out with friends and go to parties.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah. We're both very, very social, and we both really love hosting things. And actually, I think the early stages of our relationship were defined by our feud and hosting RuPaul's Drag Race watch parties.
That's true.
And so in our group chat, we would both like race to announce, like, we're like, and the next 3 weeks are all mine. But now that we're united, we host things together.
But that's don't get people confused. We still live in the same separate apartments that we were living in at that time, and will host things separately.
But sometimes we host together as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Like our amazing New Year's Eve party.
Yes, which you're all invited
Yeah.
to.
If you can find where we live, please tell us. Okay, the next question I think is very deep and interesting. It says, what similarities or differences are there in your approaches to and experiences with masculinity or gender in general? Is there anything you've learned from each other or just appreciate about the other and would like to share with regards to masculinity?
Wow. We went from what's our favorite thing to do together to like
A very intense one.
intense like identity question. I feel like I'm often in a lot of spaces that sees masculinity in predominantly its like most toxic form, and often there's like a negative association with it. Other men or male adjacent people that I'm around like want to like unlearn a lot of that toxicity, separate themselves from that pattern. I think it's been really interesting for me watching Arthur like strive to be and appear more masculine, and it's allowed me to see the like more positive connotations of like what that can mean.
It's a very interesting answer. My answer, when I was thinking about this, I was like, in what sense is Harry more masculine than me? Which is not what
That's not what the question is.
Yeah, cool.
Good luck.
I was interpreting the question as like, is there some way in which your partner is more masculine and do you want to emulate that? Which is not what the question was asking. Anyways, so I do think in a lot of like, I mean, obviously, like, Harry, you can grow a beard, but I don't know. I think as trans people, we try to
That's fair.
yeah, exactly, distance ourselves from certain biological things, blah blah blah. But in terms of like presentation and stuff, I think I'm like often more masculine. But I do think the one thing that I admire about Harry, which I'm going to label as a masculine trait, but is I think that you are like assertive about asking for what you want in a way that I think is like clear and like unembarrassed, but also not like pushy. I am someone where I will like sit at a restaurant like wanting a fork for like the whole
Very
time, you know. And you are just not like that. But I also think of you as like someone that's very like very like considerate and listens to people and all that. And it was like, oh, you can be someone that you're like, this is what I want, I've said it, and then also have all those sort of positive squishy traits as well. And it's like not like, it's not like, because I do think it's a thing, right, when I was, I don't know, female socialized or something, where you're told to like not want things or not ask for things.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'm like happy to be unlearning, because I think all people, I guess, irrespective of gender, should feel like very comfortable being upfront about what they want.
Yeah. It also kind of sounds like you're maybe talking about confidence a little too.
Yeah.
And similarly, like, yeah, I think it's a socialization thing, and everybody should be more confident, or which isn't just, one can't simply just choose to be, but something we all strive for. I mean, but what's interesting about all that is I don't always think of myself as like a very confident person, and I often don't know what I want. But you know, sometimes you need somebody else's perspective to learn more about yourself.
Next question. When you're in public, do you ever get homophobic comments said to you? No, but do you know the one story?
I knew this is the story that we're going to tell. Of course.
Yes,
it's not even a great story.
It's not even a great story. We were just walking.
Don't hype it up too much.
I'm not hyping it up.
Well, first to directly answer the question, the answer is no, because we live in a pretty liberal city.
Yes,
and and also we like spend a lot of time in the queer parts of like where we live, and surrounded by our other queer friends, and go to gay bars and whatever. So.
Yes. No, exactly. So I think we're in like a pretty safe place to not get homophobic comments, and perhaps, I'm sure it is not just our stunning personalities that are evading off the homophobes.
They're too intimidated by how hot we are, so they don't say anything.
Exactly. But we had... Again, this is just liberal city things. There was this, 16-year-old girl, we were on a date just holding hands, and she was like, oh my god, you guys are so cute! And then it was just, weird.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's obviously not homophobic. It was just...
it definitely felt like, the gay best friend.
Yes, exactly.
But it's whatever. She was a teenager.
It's it's particularly weird because we're a decade older, and I still felt infantilized, you know?
Oh, yeah. That is a bit of what it felt like.
Do you sometimes make jokes about the fact that Arthur is trans? Do you talk about it freely and openly, or is it kind of taboo / just something that doesn't really matter? Does it affect your life together in any way, for good or bad? It doesn't affect our lives at all. In fact, most of our relationship is just Harry fueling the cognitive delusion that I am a cis man.
Yeah.
So, anyways, do you want to answer the question?
I don't know that we joke about it.
I was thinking of the two. I was like, I feel like we're the types that would, but what are the jokes?
What are the jokes? What are the jokes?
I think that I think we do make jokes about antics that involve the fact I'm trans.
Yes, you like to tell me funny stories of guys that you talk to, or not just guys, people you talk to, or that hit on you that don't realize that you're trans.
Say silly things.
And say silly things.
And we have I have a trans male friend group too, and I feel like I tell stories.
And
about
there are
that.
some fun stories.
So it's inherently just in existing in trans spaces, which I do these days. I tell stories about the fact I'm trans that are funny sometimes because I'm funny sometimes.
Yeah. I think the ways that it comes up, sex to an extent, and also transphobia.
Yeah, that comes up.
There's that Arthur faces either explicitly or implicitly in different situations that, as someone who isn't trans, am unaware of, don't experience myself, and also am not always aware when Arthur is experiencing it. So that just requires conversations and good communication. Yeah.
What's your favorite memory together?
You want to go first?
Yeah. So, of course, all of my memories with Harry are my favorite memories.
Stole mine.
But the answer that I think I've decided for the moment, I think it might surprise you. But there was one night where we wanted to go to a different gay bar on a Thursday, and so we were pre-gaming for this, just me and Harry in my room, listening to Beyonce's new album. And we both got, very drunk, and had very, weirdly serious conversations in the Uber over to the place. And then when we showed up, normally this venue will have, drag queens come in on Thursdays, but they didn't have anyone famous come in, so it was, basically no one. But we were, really, ready to go. And so we were dancing like crazy people, even though there was almost no one there. And I just remember it being very fun and special that we could be so silly together. And also because I was still getting, used to being in gay clubs and gay spaces post-top surgery, because before top surgery it had been a lot more scary for me with my chest. And so it was fun to be oh, this this night ended up just being me and my partner having a really fun time. And so that's what I decided is my favorite memory.
Oh, I don't remember it being that empty. That's funny.
It was very empty.
I remember us being very drunk.
They had to close like the walls to make it like half the size because it was so empty.
I think they always do that.
I see. Okay.
On those days. But anyway, similarly, every memory with Arthur is my favorite. But I think one of my favorites is that we went on a trip for a weekend in September? No, October.
Yes,
it was October. Yes. We went to another city, and I have a lot of friends who live there. I'm family, and it was like a whirlwind, like 2 or 3 days. I got to introduce Arthur to so many people that are important to me in my life, and we get to do all these romantic things together. Arthur already talked about how we're very social and we love doing things together with other people, and also for me it's really important that like my friends like you and you like my friends, and my parents always talk about the friend test. And if your friends like your significant other, then they're probably a good fit. And so it was really special getting to introduce you to everybody.
So the final question is, how, if at all, has this relationship...
Sorry.
Final question is, how, if at all, has this relationship changed your outlook on love? My answer is...
Good question.
Sweet question. I've been in love before, but my love with Harry feels very special because I feel like we're both very self-actualized and we're living lives that we're super excited about, and we're both like changing and growing very intentionally so, but it feels like we were already on paths that we were really excited about. And so I had conceptualized a love before as like about caregiving, and it was really cool to be like, okay, sure, sometimes we're gonna care for each other, but also just I love like sharing my moments in life with Harry, and it's like just very fun. Like I didn't realize, I guess love could feel so like light and fun.
Yeah. Wow. This is my first time ever being in love. So really all of it feels like new and something I'm learning and changed. It feels like surprising and exciting and scary all at the same time. Like I definitely like a year ago didn't think that I would be in this place now, especially coming out of like not being in a relationship for like 4 years. Yeah, everything that Arthur said, it's just like having fun together and somebody to share exciting things with, which is very exciting and also like scary. It is scary.
Yes.
Big feelings are scary.
Yes. Okay. And with that,
we must go.
We must go off to dinner. But thank you for watching and meeting Harry.